We are
Are we
live.
on?
We're
Are
live
we
and we're
on?
weird.
Are we
Ah,
on?
what just happened? Oh, okay, comments. We're
Hey
live and we're
guys.
weird. Howdy. We're live and we're weird. I'm going to make sure anybody's here, although it does just all get recorded anyway. So I'm going to start with the description of the topic as soon as I actually know. Thanks, Facebook, for throwing a bunch of noise in my face that I
Doesn't
don't
matter.
really need.
This live function
There's
is
nobody there.
crappy. It could be better.
Hoorah for nobody there. I'm waiting to make sure somebody actually. Oh, yeah, now we're up to two. Okay,
Okay, if
so
people are
it's
seeing
working.
this, then we know it's at
Yeah.
least working.
So
Cool.
maybe talking to two people, but at least it's working. Okay, so the topic for today, which is actually an offshoot of a different discussion that was happening under a post that she did, is the hazards of being too nice. And I'm already going to complain about my own title because kind of inherently being nice is what results in justice and kindness. So it's more like the hazards of being too polite and passive and gentle in the face of evil.
And
And
in a way, you could describe that as being too nice to the wrong individuals and
yeah,
directing your niceness where it doesn't belong.
yeah. And the result isn't just, oh, you wasted your niceness on a bunch of buttheads. It's you actually helped to harm people you should be nice to by way of being nice to buttheads. So I'll start with the political context, even though this is just as true on an individual basis. Like you can see people doing this in their own private lives, and you can certainly see people doing it politically if you I mean, there's the obvious thing that decent people and people who understand voluntarism in particular understand the non-aggression principle. We don't start fights, we don't attack people, we try to be polite and nice and all that. And so that makes this natural kind of unavoidable paradox that you have the nasty psychos who don't mind initiating violence and robbing people and defrauding people, and then the good people who are very hesitant to resort to force or even like rudeness, much less shooting somebody, which they should be. And that's why I'm not sure there's exactly a solution to what I'm describing, because when you have if you have a bunch of people living in a town somewhere and some of them don't mind just randomly attacking people and stealing their stuff, and all the rest are, want to assume the best in other people and want to trust everybody and want to be nice and are hesitant to use violence, and they make really easy targets for the thugs. But if because of that they all get callous and nasty and cynical and distrustful of everybody, that's not really an improvement either.
Right.
But if you historically look at, you know, pick your favorite regime, Nazi Germany, Soviet Russia, Communist China, North Korea, all the evil crap that was done while a huge number of people either helped it or quietly and politely didn't do anything to stop it. And a few people here and there might sort of speak out and go, hey, we don't really like this, which is not that useful. Like if somebody's attacking you with an axe and you go, I just want to voice my objection to you. Like, it doesn't matter if it's people who don't mind committing aggression, you telling them that you mind that, like they're going to know that you mind that anyway. Like they're going to know their victims aren't really on board with the plan. They don't stink and care. So if you're trying to politely tell them that you don't like that, it's not going to do anything.
Also, a lot for a long time before information was widely abundant and information about history was widely abundant, nice people who were sincerely nice and genuine could get away with maybe not really understanding and knowing that sincerely malicious, evil, very not nice people who don't have any feelings or even any feelings of niceness exist, and they really could project more easily who they are onto the whole world, and therefore go, well, everyone must mean well, or people that seem not nice, they must just be broken. But now there's enough people who have experienced and had to face off with what is in, like, unarguably pure malice, and history is rife with people demonstrating that they can be completely inhuman compared to all the way nice and all the way sincere average people, to the point that they're happy to and will repeatedly just use, abuse, and take advantage of the people who are unconditionally nice to them and think that they should just be nice. And the thing is people who don't feel, they can't relate to your feelings, or if you're a nice person, and don't care that you feel pain or hurt when they aren't nice. So they aren't going to suddenly go, oh, oops, I see the error of my ways. And now people can know that because all the information's out there. We can go look at the governments of the world and their followers and what's been done to torture human beings, because other people genuinely thrived on the agony and pain of others.
Yeah. And meanwhile, most of the people were projecting their own, like you said, were projecting their own goodness onto everybody else and wanting to trust everybody and love everybody and yada, yada, yada. And we're so reluctant to go, maybe you're an evil bastard. I mean, look at the discussion right now. Let's see. I want to put it in terms that don't get this video taken down immediately. There are completely evil bastards conspiring to do completely evil things. And most of the world at least assumes that they're telling the truth or saying what they think is the truth, and they care about us, and they're trying things out of the best of intentions. And the result of people assuming good intentions is horrendous, massive scale suffering and injustice. And the balance between wanting to expect the best out of people and trust people, and by default treating everybody else as if you expect them to be nice and good, which I think overall is a good thing. But the balance between that and keeping your part of your brain realizing there are evil bastards in the world, and they have a huge advantage over those of us who aren't evil bastards, because unless we go out of our way to think about it, it doesn't occur to us that somebody who shows up perfectly nice and friendly may be totally putting on an act and having, nasty designs and agenda behind it, because we don't want to think that stuff about people when they haven't yet given us a reason to. Trouble is, if part of our brain isn't able to run that subroutine that says there are nasty bastards in the world and I should kind of be seeing if I can tell where they are, then we become enablers. But I wanted to give an example of what I think people should actually do, because I don't want everybody to be cynical and nasty to everybody and assume everybody's evil, because
the answer's not one extreme or the other. Be really nice to everybody,
that's not
or
better.
Be cynical and assume every person might secretly be a bad person.
But let me give an example, and I'll use Ayn Rand's phrase, the sanction of the victim, which is where the victim of injustice basically gives their blessing to themselves being victimized. And amazing, who on earth would do that? Almost everybody who believes in government condones their own victimization, their own robbery, and their own subjugation.
Everyone who was once a believer in government, everyone who was once in a long-term and abusive relationship too.
Yeah. So this happens on an individual basis and in politics. It's all politics is, because all politics, at least it's possible to have an individual relationship that's loving and kind. You can't have a loving, kind relationship with government because it is inherently violent and aggressive. So imagine 100,000 IRS agents, mostly just paper pushers. None of them know anything about anything. They're idiots, and the turnover rate is ridiculous because almost everybody hates them. Imagine those people go out. So we'll do two scenarios. One, people, they write their letters and people are like, oh, okay, let me know if I did anything wrong. If I owe anything, I was trying to pay everything I owe and I was trying to do everything right. I'll be all apologetic. if that is the response of the victims of the IRS, because the IRS has victims and nothing else, they're not a service, Internal Revenue Service, like that. You're not serving people any more than a carjacker is. But if the people they victimize give responses that basically say or imply, yes, we expect to be treated this way, and we acknowledge your right to treat us this way, and we'll actually grovel and kiss your feet on the off chance that maybe we didn't quite allow you to victimize us in the right way or enough or something. Inside the brain of the one who's being an agent of evil, which is everybody at the IRS. Everybody at the IRS is an agent of evil. That's what their job is. They are thieves for the worst people in the world. If their victims act as if this is perfectly okay and I condone it and I accept it, and are nice to them, being nice to IRS agents allows them to feel okay about victimizing not just you, but everybody else. And that's the problem. It's the bigger problem.
To put it very clearly, giving positive feedback, and I do mean your kindness, giving positive feedback directly to evil lets it think it should keep being evil.
Yeah. And makes them feel perfectly okay about it. But there is the other scenario, which is these days closer to what's actually happening, which is anytime the IRS talks to anybody, like the people may be scared into like, oh, I'm going to go along with it because I don't want you like stealing my house or throwing me in a cage or whatever. But when people are like, oh, you parasitic piece of crap, what the hell do you want? That creates psychological pressure. It tells the abuser, we all see you as an abuser and a thief and an evil piece of shit. We might go along with it if out of self-preservation we don't see a better option, like we don't see how we can avoid it. But be perfectly clear that we hate your guts because you suck, because you're doing something evil. I literally think it is an affront to humanity to be nice to IRS agents because it's giving them permission and sanction to victimize not just you, but everybody else.
And that goes into something a little uncomfortable, which is what it sounds like we're saying is true. Nice people have to learn how to direct not niceness, not comfortable feelings and comfortable words at people who aren't deserving of it and who actually deserve the not nice and the unkind. And people who are, how do I put this, extremely nice, but to the point that it's not just about their niceness. They are married to, I want to feel good as a good person. I want to feel nice feelings towards others. Those people are also a victim of their own selfishness. This is really, really, really important to get. When you make it all about what you want to feel all the time, and you don't care about the feedback you need to give to reality so that it's not going to run roughshod over all the other innocent people, you are just being selfish and you are doing nobody else any good. That is why you're supposed to love all of your emotions, including appreciate them, including your emotions of anger, rage, or justified annoyance and despising other people who do things that are hateful towards innocent and loving people. And you are supposed to tap into the actions that let those people know what they're doing is not okay. And that is uncomfortable for you if you always like feeling love and light and niceness.
Yeah.
And if it's all about what you want to feel all the time, be very clear about this. That is not being loving towards other people. That's being selfish.
And empowering evil, because you're literally empowering the person victimizing you and who's going to victimize the next person by letting them know, oh, this is okay because of how these people are responding to what I'm doing. And like, you may not have the means or the willingness to like try to forcibly resist being robbed, but there's a big difference between I'm going to go along with the carjacker so he doesn't kill me if I'm not armed and he catches me off guard, and I'm going to go, oh, yes, sir, carjacker, right away, absolutely. I want to cooperate in every way. No, do not treat IRS agents. Don't treat traffic cops that way. Don't treat any bureaucrat that way. Because in being nice to them, you are giving them permission to be evil to you and everybody else. And I mean, there's the I'm going to butcher his name, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I think that was close. Who wrote Gulag Archipelago, and that famous quote where he's like, "How we burned in the camps later, not like on fire, but like in their brains, like in the camps, as in prison camps." Thinking, why didn't we do anything? Why did you just go along with this? Like, until they rounded us up one at a time. Why were we nice and cooperative? How dumb could... And he ended by, I mean, he ended harsher to himself than I would have been, because he ended by saying at the end, we deserved everything we got because we didn't do anything. And I don't really think somebody deserves to be victimized just because they were too stupid to try to resist it. But that's the outcome, whether you deserve it or not. The outcome of cooperating with and giving your blessing to and being nice to your victimizers is you are empowering them and basically telling them on a subconscious level, we're okay with this. We're okay with what you're doing to us and everybody else. And to do that is like, whether or not you're in a position to actually disobey and resist, to talk in any way as if they have your blessing for what they're doing, that's just horrendous. That isn't being nice. That isn't you loving justice and peace. That is you giving your blessing to injustice and robbery and thuggery and authoritarian evil in the name of getting along.
And the reason we bring up these extremes is because the extremes is where the extreme of psychopaths and government agents is exactly where the toxic mindset of trying to be nice to everyone all the time hits up against something that makes everything worse and actually does a disservice to the nice and the innocent. We're not denigrating anyone who just wants to be nice to the average stranger out there until that stranger gives them a reason to not be, just because they don't know them. That's great. If you genuinely enjoy being a nice person as often as you can be that person, because that's what a nice, loving person does want to do. But a truly good person isn't and shouldn't be directing any niceness at people who are demonstrating that they have no goodwill towards anyone, they are not nice to anyone, and they have no intention of ever wanting to be nice. And they're making it clear repeatedly in their actions that they're going to continue to run over other nice and innocent people. Then you treating them nice literally helps them. So it doesn't do any good. And you aren't a nice person at that point. You actually cross the bridge into not being a nice person. You're being not nice to all of their future victims by empowering the evil person right in front of you.
Yeah. And on the other hand, there's even if you're not in a position where you dare to like disobey and resist, there is a huge power in peer pressure. Like, human beings are very easy to sway and bully into one way or another, which is why government, a lot of what it does is just bully people into obedience. But I'm all in favor of bullying when the victim of the bullying is a bully. If we're nasty to IRS agents, if they know every time they confront or they have dealings with anybody in the public, they're going to get hatred and scorn. Even when they get cooperation, they're going to get people going, you're just an evil piece of shit. Get a real job, you parasitic agent of evil. Yeah, I'll hand over the money if it keeps you from stealing my car or whatever. But know that you're a piece of shit, and that I know you're a piece of shit. And I'm not going to, for the sake of politeness, pretend you're not a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit because you are choosing to do this. If that happened every time anybody at the IRS talked to anybody, nobody would work for the IRS. And the funny thing is, we're getting to that point. The turnover rate at the IRS is really damn high as it is.
They can't actually hang on to employees.
And even police departments. The Associated Press for years now has been reporting, oh, we can't get enough people to sign up to be cops. And they even say it's because everybody hates cops. That's because most of what you do is be evil thugs for the state. But that admission is huge for them to admit, just people saying we don't like you. We're not going to go, thank you for your service, brave men and women of law enforcement. It's like, you're just a street gang. You're a bunch of friggin' parasites, and most of us know it now. That pressure, just of the opinion, nobody threatening them. I mean, people can also threaten them. But the pressure just from people voicing that opinion makes it so lots and lots of people are going to go, well, I'm not going to do that job.
And actually, anyone who's been paying attention got to watch the trajectory of the last 30 years in America, where 30 years ago, Americans had an attitude of, be really nice to the officer, just do what he says, go, thank you very much, officer, sorry, officer, okay, officer. And that got us to the point of the peak of 2010 to 2013, when there was just slew after slew of videos in social media feeds showing cops absolutely tyrannically up their own butts, power tripping, hurting all kinds of innocent people, video after video after video, because it was so rampant and such a problem. And that finally created a backlash. And in my lifetime, I went from everybody pretty much verbally almost blowing police officers to now it's a cultural meme on the internet and across the board that cops are hated. And I know of personally many actual police departments that are close to shutting down or struggling with hiring freezes all over the country because they say nobody wants to be cops. And also, I know that a lot of cops are now a lot less predatory because they feel hated and they recognize they're not something that has the right, and that other people don't see them as having the right to do the stuff they were doing. So in lots of places, they're backing off, and it's demonstrable. And it's because it took people finally getting nasty at them instead of being
righteous
nice.
Indignation at them. Like,
yes,
you suck. We're not going to pretend this is okay anymore.
And an uncomfortable word, because we don't like to wallow in this emotion, but rage. Rage has a place as much as love. If you actually love people, you actually understand and feel rage for true, malicious, intentional injustice.
Yeah. And then ultimately, the ultimate sort of measure of how nice are you going to be is when they resort to brute violence, when the state does. The only thing that stops totalitarianism is there being some percentage of the population that's willing to resort to brute violence in the other direction, including shooting them. And when I made my video, when should you shoot a cop? Bunch of people freaked out, and I said, okay, pause your freaking out and watch the video and then freak out at me. And a lot of people did, and then they were like, oh, okay, you kind of have a point. Because historically, it's indisputably obvious that all those tyrannical regimes, what they needed more of was cop killers. You know, the Nazis, they needed other people shooting at them. Like the KGB, the enforcers of, Stalin's Russia. And like what humanity needed was a bunch of the good people saying, all right, this is beyond the line. We're done being nice. We're done being patient. We're done being cooperative. We're done being nonviolent. Now, I know some people don't like to use the term violence to refer to justified defensive force, and that's fine. Like, okay, defensive force, not when they mean violence, they mean inherently immoral aggression.
Yeah, but so you are going to have to get uncomfortably defensively physical and forceful against violent people who violate.
Yeah, and ultimately that is the only check against authoritarian power. I mean, wait, was it Frederick? Yeah, Frederick Douglass. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and never will. Find out exactly how much injustice people will tolerate, and you will find out exactly the amount that will be imposed on them until they resist with either words or blows or both. That was pretty close to the direct quote.
Well, and also the state, a lot of the state and control mechanisms in the world that were groups of people just being gangs trying to control others psychologically, they push and like the notions of be pretty much unconditionally a nice person to all of us and everyone, and nobody ever fight back and get ugly, because that's their mantra. In fact, in public schools, they water down morality and screw over the actual victim of violence by making it not about whether there was an aggressor or not, and just going, oh, you got in a fight, so you're in trouble. And one of those people was actually just physically defending themselves against getting attacked. And then they get in trouble as if they did a wrong thing. And that completely muddied the waters for so many people. This also led to, this is where we're going to get a little more uncomfortable because people don't want to look at this. This led to a whole culture of people thinking the nice and loving thing to do to relentlessly abusive, malicious people was to just run away from them and let it go. Let me be clear. History has demonstrated that you letting it go and not doing anything about it and watching as they take off and do whatever they want to other people, just let them go and hurt and violate everyone else they were going to continue to do it to. And you're just fine because now they're not doing it to you. Well, I let it go. I disconnected from them. They're free to go hurt everyone else. In a just world without government, there will be, and there should be, private, hired teams of people who investigate individuals that consistently go out and harm others and then go out and hunt them down. There are so many people who everyone thought just love them, and all they did was continue to violate, rape, abuse, hit, hurt, and kill other people. And then when someone else disconnected from them, they went on to do that to others. When in actuality, if more people had the response of shooting the person that was actually trying to hurt them and kill them and stopping them dead in their tracks, there would be a lot fewer damaging, abusive people in the world, and it would also set a really strong precedent for not doing that. So a lot of people think that we got to where we are because there's so much hate in the world. No, we got to where we are because a small percentage of the world, it's actually small, that is hate-filled and psychopathic was literally enabled by all of good people thinking the right thing is live and let live, as in let the abusers go and run amok and just go la 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 and ignore them and just try to get away. And this is why actual hired security teams or hired hunters and people that would go and literally hired assassins existed and still do, although they have to be underground because government doesn't like them, because they understood that just because one guy stopped hurting and abusing this group of people or one woman stopped doing that here, that didn't mean that just because those people went, okay, we got away from her, that she or he wasn't going to keep doing that to everyone else. And they understood the injustice of allowing that person to continue on violating the rights of others. And it's really important to remember that every right you violate, or those people violate, they forfeited. So you aren't being nice anymore to let them continue having those rights.
So here, we're coming up on half an hour. Oh, we can go a little bit longer. But I basically wanted to give this guilt trip to people. When it comes to government injustice or any other kind of injustice, is your top priority minimizing what you have to go through? Like, I totally understand if it is, and if it is, you are doing nothing to stop the injustice, you're just running away from it. Yep. If your goal is to stop the injustice, then whether it's, like Frederick Douglass said, whether it's with words or blows or both, you need to do something to actually resist it. And being nice to the abusers is not how you resist it, it's how you enable it. Yep. And I think there's a lot of people, including in the movement, who are, can't we all just get along? Nope. No, we can't. Nope. We already can't, because there are aggressors in the world. If there are aggressors in the world, by definition, we can't all just get along. Now, if you can talk them out of committing aggression, fine, but you're not going to the vast majority of the time. And if you don't do anything to try to stop their aggression, and you think that your cooperation and non-resistance is a sign of you being peaceful and moral, you're going in the wrong direction, because you're literally enabling the abusers and disempowering all of their victims by spreading the notion that letting them get away with that crap and being nice to them is like pro-peace and pro-love. And no, it's freaking not. If you want to love somebody, love the potential victim of the aggressor enough to do something to stop the aggressor from victimizing them.
And I won't go into detail, but I've actually recently witnessed in a really uncomfortable way in like mass gatherings of people, including freedom minded people who call themselves anarchists, who all of them suffered from the I don't want to have any confrontation. They were conflict
Yeah.
avoidant to the point of actually enabling rampant abuse of totally innocent people right in front of them. And it was all because not a single person would even so much go up and like physically stop the abuse. Now, I did have friends who said, okay, had I been there, I would have physically stopped it. And they described how they would have. And I said, good. You care about defending others and actually defending what is good to the point that you understand what you have the right to do. And you would have done it because there were innocent children and adults being harmed right there and violated. A bunch of the other people who called themselves freedom lovers and anarchists sat around and were just like, I don't know what to do. I guess I'll just kind of complain over here to someone about what's going on over there and that it's hurting a bunch of people right in front of me. But I'm not going to go up and like yell or anything at anyone, even though they're literally violating a bunch of people right there. I don't want to like cause more conflict. No, like they didn't actually start to stop what they were doing and shut down until multiple men, including him, went up and were really violently, forcefully loud in their face and threatening like they might actually even hurt them if they didn't stop. And it had to get ugly for the aggressor in the midst of a bunch of people to finally get that at least, okay, I can't really get away with this. And by the way, that person demonstrated not at all that they learned or were going to be nice after that or had any intention of being nice. They made it very clear they thought they should get away with what they were doing. They had no feelings or empathy for anyone else. And they even wanted to get away with it. But dozens of people around them being super nasty finally at them, not nice, made them have to go, okay, and their self-preservation kicked in and they didn't want to do it anymore, so they calmed down a little bit, and that stopped the aggression that was hurting other people around them right then and there. And having to witness this and also live through it in other ways in my own life has made it really, 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 really clear, and it probably has for some of you, that it isn't nice to anyone, including not to you, to show niceness towards aggressors and evil people. It's not.
So I'll end with this, and then we can dive into the comments and do all that with text, because I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff in there.
Yep.
I think part of that comes from government, and the entire notion of authority teaches people to be children and not know how to grow up. And one of the main things that authority always says is, don't take matters into your own hands. Don't take the law into your own hands. Just call authority. Like if the police beat the crap out of you, just go to their courts the next week and file a petition. Like sit there and let them beat you to, like, if they beat you to death, well, I guess you can't do much. But if they beat you almost to death, just let them do it and then later sue them in their own courts, that their own masters. Like the entire mentality of not being a grown-up is what authority pushes. And unfortunately, a lot of people who tend towards the can't we all just get along, sort of like a bunch of voluntarists who sort of came from the political left, tend to be in the weak trying to everybody get along peacefully and nicely when aggression's already happening. And like I said, when aggression's already happening, the getting along isn't happening. Like it's too late to get along. Somebody's committing aggression. Your
Right.
choices at that point are you going to let the unjust aggression happen, or are you going to be one of the grown-ups who does what you can to make it stop? And if you imagine yourself to be pro-freedom, but you're not to the point where you're one of the grown-ups who will actually put yourself in an uncomfortable position, like, oh, now I got to go yell at somebody or talk to somebody or whatever it is, or all the way up a shootout, like hopefully it isn't something that serious. But if you're not one of the grown-ups who is willing to meet the unjust aggression with equal force, then you're not really going to fix anything, because I guarantee you the aggressors are perfectly willing to commit aggression. That's why they're aggressors. And if nobody even condemns them, much less forcibly stops them, they keep going. They don't care about your kumbaya. They don't care about your can't we all just get along.
And you're not going to love them into not being evil. That's not how that works.
That just makes you, A, a handy victim for them, and B, no obstacle to them victimizing the next person after they're done with you.
Right. It isn't
And
loving
so,
to innocence to just allow evil to keep going. It's like the quote, mercy to the guilty is cruelty to the innocent.
yeah. Yepperoni. And in fact, that saying's so profound that we should maybe just end on that, and we'll just dive into texts because it's too much to scroll through and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, yada yada. Oh, by the way, if you like this and want to donate to us, the description below has a bunch of ways you can do that. Tomorrow, here. Tomorrow, you're not allowed to hear this. Here,
So you covered my eyes.
cover your own
you're
eyes.
You're confused
I'm
about
gonna
the senses here.
Which thing do you hear with? I forget. I'm plugging her ear, and hopefully the other ear is too far away. Tomorrow is her birthday. No. This is working super well. Tomorrow is her birthday, so feel free to send her stuff. She'll be 147 or something. I don't know.
I'm a 350-year-old dragon.
Vampire freak dragon.
Stuck inside a 36-year-old woman human suit.
Anyway, we've slightly derailed. But yes, if you want to donate, the description below says how to do that. And now we'll dive into the discussion and see how many people would be offended by saying, no, we can't all just get along. And the longer you try to get along with your abusers, the more you will be abused. Yay!
Peace. But not to all.
Yeah.